And we do understand the police say they're investigating this particular subject. But we also do know that many of you have flogged your platforms on WhatsApp and also on Facebook with many of such related videos about alleged brutalities and then some harassment, if not molestations, you have been receiving at the hands of the security agencies, because it's not only the police that is undertaking this whole lockdown exercise. We have complementing them, the military. But this segment is basically a question and answer period. We'll have the phone lines open very soon. We already do have in the studio the public relations head for Police Service Accra Region Command and ASP Ifyatenge.
DSP.
Okay, DSP Ifyatenge is right here with me. Good morning to you, DSP.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. And we'll be joined on Skype by ACP David Ajem, who is a Deputy Police Commander for the Ashanti region, and ASP Godwin Ahianyo, a regional PRO for the Ashanti region. And they will be joining us by Skype. We'll spend the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes talking about the lockdown measures. Now let's get to you in the studio. First, what were the pre-lockdown guidelines? How did you intend operationalizing the lockdown in the first place? If you can just take us through, we'll be happy.
Yes, I think that we were all expecting this lockdown. And so following the president's announcement, we knew that yes, the police and other allied security services were the ones going to ensure that the enforcement leads us to the objective that we were looking for. And so right from the announcement, the police had its own strategies and making sure that we are able to deliver as instructed. And therefore, we began by sealing off the areas, especially the entry and exit points that we had earlier notified the public about. And so in Accra, like this, every point that you would have to go through before getting to Accra, I mean the peripheries, were cordoned off. It means that you cannot go, you cannot come inside. And apart from the sealing of areas like the Wager, like the in Sawam, heading towards Kumasi, like also from Ayi heading to Ebri and the other parts of Ghana on that corridor, and also on the Dodowa road like this, we had all these places cordoned off. Looking at this, we also have within Accra measures that were also to complement all that we had done on the outlining areas. So within Accra like this, the best way we thought security services we could handle the entire, directive was to ensure that we create some barriers within the municipalities, and therefore people were supposed to comply with this and also give police the necessary support for us to achieve whatever target we hope to. But there were some exemptions, and these have been well articulated by the President and also the Ministry of Information. And there's been a number of education that had gone on for you to get it clear as to whether you fell within these exemptions or not. So that is how we have begun, and we are still rolling out a table of gradual and tactical deployment. And day in and day out, we review our strategies based on the situation on the ground, and they are implemented.
Does it mean that on day one, after you did a review and so that affected the deployment and the rollout for day 2 and subsequently for day 3?
I don't get it.
If you deployed 20 men at a particular area, you did a review, and so it means that you had more roadblocks at certain entry points to communities or certain area. Is that what happened?
Yes. Okay. And there is no operational strategy probably that is cast in stone. Once you are implementing the strategies that you have on paper, they are subject to review depending on the situation on the ground. And so if we applied the operational strategy, sometimes there's one thing drawing up the strategy, especially in a novel incident or pandemic like this, that we are all trying to see how best we can salvage the situation. And its implementation on the ground probably may be different. So we adjust and we make sure that we review the strategies on some basis on how best we think that the entire measures can be adhered to by the general public. Exactly.
Well, we'll take you to Kumasi. It's where we have a deputy police commander for the Ashanti region, ACP David Ajemain, and we will also be having that interaction with him. But good morning to you, sir. Are you on the line?
Yes, I am here, but you are very faint.
Okay. Perhaps we will have to cut that call and re-establish the line clearly, if that is possible. Okay. All right. Can you hear me clearly now?
Hello?
Can you hear me clearly now? Is it better?
Yes, I can hear you, but
it's so faint.
As I said, very faint.
Okay. We'll re-establish that. But before we also do that, we have a man somewhere around Tesano right here. And Joseph Akable is also going to just give us a sneak peek into, it looks like some altercation because the police at Tesano have tightened the security around the area. You wanted to... okay. So, okay. Joseph, what's the situation at Tesano?
He's also to join.
Joseph?
Hello, Roland.
Yes, what's the situation at Tesano? Can you just briefly tell us?
Okay, so I'm currently some few meters away from the Tesano police station. This is a checkpoint here where the police is enforcing the restrictions that were imposed by the president. So it's important to note that for users of this particular route, they say that the levels of enforcement is a bit different, a bit more intense than it was yesterday. So you can
yesterday, and so you can see on my left-hand side here where you have a police officer standing here. And so what is happening is that when the cars are coming and heading towards town, they stop the cars and they ask those in the car where exactly they are heading to. If they realize that you don't have any business in town, or you are not part of the workers who have been exempted and allowed to go to work per the directives from government, what happens is that you are asked to move back, and then the car turns around and takes you back to wherever you came in from.
Madam Ifea, it looks like this is also a scale-up of the measure. Is it part of the strategy after review?
Yes. Actually, after the first day, we realized that especially some commercial vehicles wanted to take undue advantage of the entire exercise. So we actually scaled up our plans and clamped down on the commercial vehicles. What we saw was that they were actually loading people into the city center, and people who actually do not have any reason for being there. And for that matter, we began to find out from each one of them what their business actually were in the business district. And we realized that there were some flimsy excuses, one way or the other. And you realize that they had just not taken the entire operation or the entire directives seriously. So we decided to now return them back. So every jurisdiction was to secure its area of operation or area of responsibility. So if I am the Tesano divisional commander, I would have to make sure that anybody within that jurisdiction is somebody who has some business of a sort to do in that particular division. And so it goes on and on and on. So every divisional commander wouldn't want anybody who have no business to do in that division to have something to do. If you have anything to do for some reason, which of course should be of an essential, then it should be within that particular area. We didn't want people to be moving in and out, because the more the people move, it means that the more we continue to spread the disease. So for that one, it was a no-no for us, and that was the strategy that we were using from the second day until I speak to you.
Okay, and now in Kumasi, let's go to the Ashanti region, and ASP David Ajimaya, you are a deputy...
ACP.
ACP David Ajimaya, pardon me for that, Deputy Police Commander in the Ashanti region, but particularly for Kumasi and the adjoining communities or areas that have all been roped up in this exercise. How did you conduct the exercise per the review that you did after the first day?
Good morning. Good morning to you, and good morning to my colleagues. I think after the first day, we realized that there were problems with how people were conducting themselves generally. And so what we have done is that we have asked our men, to go out there and educate as well as enforce. I mean, our duty was to enforce, but we realized that three things are happening. There are persons who are out there because of ignorance. There are others who are because they are not, we haven't educated them enough. And of course, the third is the recalcitrant one. So we are trying to enforce as well as educate. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hello. Please continue.
Yes. So
Yes.
our strategy is that we are trying to enforce and educate the people at the same time.
Now, we noticed that in Kumasi, even though people were supposed to be confined, we had on the first day people on the streets. And that led to you tightening the operational actions by the second day. And as a result of that, there were some confrontations with ordinary citizens. Is that what you also observed, based on what we reported on?
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm telling you, that after the first day, we realized that people were out there, and we guessed that there were three reasons. And the reasons were that, first, some people were just ignorant. They didn't know there was anything in place. Secondly, there were others who hadn't had enough education because, I mean, they said they could go out and do things. They felt that it was business as usual. And there was a third group who I would term as recalcitrant. They have turned themselves into tourists who would go roam over the town to see what is happening everywhere. And so what we have done is that we are now asking the men to enforce and educate at the same time. So when they see people in town, they tell you why you don't have to be there and things like that.
Question to you, and if but let me start with you. Since you are a deputy regional commander, when it comes to let's say MMDCs, there's a video of is it a DC also, an MDC also, or an MC, so to speak, who apparently had some confrontation with your men within your jurisdiction. And I also understand that they are supposed to be the head of the security committee. Now, what is the collaboration with them? And for us to forestall such an incident, what usually would you do or did you do up to now?
I think this particular case has come to our attention and it's under investigation, so I would rather we don't talk about it on air. But generally, our engagement with the MMDC have been fantastic. I mean, yesterday we had a delegation from Accra here. The IGP and the service commanders, the CDS were here, and the regional minister himself was out here with us throughout the time. I mean, that tells you, and so if the regional minister is with us, then all the other, and then if you have seen videos going around of the mayor of Kumasi going around, you see that he's always with our officers. That tells you that generally, there is a good working relationship and collaboration between us and the MDCC. Unfortunately, this was an unfortunate incident, and I think that we'll put it behind us and forge ahead and do the work that we've been assigned to do.
Well, let me now come to Madam Ifeatenge. Now, there are reports here in Accra of confrontations with the police. Now, I have seen personally that the police have on them canes, whips, and then also the military as well. What are those intended for?
Yes, actually, if we all got it right from the briefing that was given by our Director of Operations at the National Briefing, that's the Information Services, that's the Information Ministry, before even the entire operation began. What we know is that the entire operation was going to be that of a humanitarian approach way, of handling the operation. And for that matter, as we have said, we decided to use more of engagement, more of explanation, and some form of encouragement for people to know that, yes, we are out there because of the fight of this COVID-19. And for that matter, for us to be able to control its spread, then of course we need their support and compliance in staying at home. And the last thing we were to resort to, was the use of that's enforcement, making sure that recalcitrant ones or people who actually have decided to disobey are arrested and made to be dealt with, with full rigors of the law. And so we implemented this on the ground. And for a matter of fact, we know that an operation like this, we're not going to have it so smoothly because there are different segments of people within the society. And as much as people will decide, to obey and comply, there are others, for whatever reason, no matter what you do, they will still disobey. And some of them will even want to even provoke the police to see the reactions of the police officer. We have tried to do everything within the limits of the law. And I am sure it is because of this, that is why the Imposition of Restriction Act, that gives us the legal backing on what to do. But that notwithstanding, on the ground, we try to use the level.
Well, just hold on. Let's go to Tesano, where we have to continue with Joseph Akable. Joseph, will you continue where you left off? What have you picked up so far? Joseph? Okay, so Joseph is currently showing us pictures of how the interaction or the inspections are undertaken. And of course, hello, Joseph. Hello, Joseph Akable. What have you picked up so far from where you left off?
Can't hear me. Roland, can you hear me?
I can, Joseph.
And so in terms of the enforcement, is a bit on a high in terms of those who use this route compared to what they experienced yesterday. And so what you can see is a police officer that has stopped the vehicle. So what happens is that when a commercial vehicle comes in, they stop the vehicle. These are vehicles that are heading towards Accra. And so they are stopped here. And then they ask those in the car to come down and show the identification to the police officer. And so once he checks it and he realizes that most of those in the car don't have any business going to town, they ask the car to turn around and go back to where it came from. On the other hand, if there are some of those in the car who have business in town or part of those who have been exempted, then what happens is that those people, if they are in the minority, they are made to come down and wait for some time here. And so when another car comes that has enough space and has more people who are allowed to go, then those people are allowed to go over to where they are going to. And so that is it by way of the process that is being implemented here. It's not really affected the flow of traffic here much. And so you can see the interaction between the police officer and some of the people here. I'm just taking the microphone a bit closer to hear what exactly is happening here. And so he's asked them the questions. He's satisfied. The driver is a bit raising concerns, but I mean, this is the exercise that they are carrying out, and they must go ahead with this particular process. What is interesting to note that there's one gentleman that I saw earlier. He had come in. He says he works for the judicial service, but the car that he was in, the car was asked to go back, and so it was a bit problematic for him. He's currently standing here at the bus stop. He says he had called his office asking that a car could be sent to come and get him, but that car has not come in yet, and so he is still waiting to see how he's going to go over, or perhaps if, like the police did for some of those who came in earlier, if there is a car that they can get, that they've given the clearance to go ahead, then they will allow him to join that particular car. And so the situation here at Tesano is that the police are strictly enforcing the measures that were announced by the president, and they are ensuring that only those they are allowing to head towards town are persons who have some business in town. If you are not, then you are simply asked to go back, Roland.
Well, thank you, Joseph. Just real life or real-time action on the ground as to what the police and the military are doing. We've been joined by ACP Kusifori. He is Director for Operations, the Accra Region Command, same place where Madam ASP Ifyatingi also, DSP Ifyatingi also works. Okay. Now, in the meantime, I've seen that, and I witnessed this yesterday as well. I noticed that depending on the area, for example, yesterday I went through Ashaiman before going home. So your people were very strict. People with IDs, even I had an ID, and I was returning from work. It was difficult. There's a gentleman this morning we've seen, works with the judicial service, also has an ID, and he's been asked, look, get off that car, let the car return. Yesterday, I also got a return as well. Why do we have such processes and checks being undertaken at various roadblocks, but being varied depending on the area?
Okay, one thing is every operation of this nature is not static, but dynamic. And being dynamic, officers have to use a lot of discretion and intelligence-led. And being intelligence-led means they have some kind of pieces of information regarding that very community they're operating from. And by so doing, that will better shape them, to prosecute the agenda better. For instance, as you said, you've seen some variation as you move along in the city and its outlying areas. Yes, we have 14 divisions in Accra. And the 14th division, each community has its own peculiar challenges, problems, and success stories regarding this operation. So commanders at any given point give instructions through the radio that we have. For instance, that gentleman, I think the police are giving him a better offer. He has an ID card. Gentlemen,
even in that state, they are giving a better offer.
Sometimes even we, being a judicial, this anytime a police car passes by, we can offer such guy,
a ride back
to his office, or look out for a car for him. It maybe all of them in the car are not essential workers. They are just going to loiter around, or engage in a whole lot of other activities that may be detrimental to the operations. And let us not forget that the operation has its own cardinal goals and principles in mind. And in every law enforcement, the officer has a lot of discretion vis-a-vis the law and the regulation that we are operating from. So that makes them, to exercise that kind of authority.
ASP Ajama, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
We noticed, and our reporters confirmed this yesterday, sometimes you return the commercial vehicles, but within the trotros, you would have maybe a nurse or somebody who is in the exempt category. Why do you do that?
I think two things. What we realize is that sometimes the vehicles, you ask the persons in the vehicle and you realize that most of them, as my colleague said, are just coming to town for nothing. They may not have any tangible reasons for coming to town. And let's assume that a trotro that has, say, 10 persons and only one person is in the exam. I mean, I think it's prudent to let that one person come out, find alternate transport for the person, and ask the others to go back.
Okay. Now, we'll open the phone lines. We actually do have two numbers, even though it's only one that has been displayed. We have 03022116991 or 2. 03022116991 or 2. And we have a caller on the line. Good morning to you. Where are you calling from?
Good morning. My name is Franklin.
Please, can you speak up, please?
Good morning. My name is Franklin.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to comment on this issue on the road with the police and the military. As a matter of fact, if we can leave the military and the police to do their work, because I just stepped out and came back, some drivers are just misbehaving. They are misbehaving, and they need to be disciplined. Let us not restrict them. You see, no policeman or military man will intentionally decide to beat a driver
Okay.
or whatsoever.
Please, where exactly are you calling from? And then just give us your own situational observation. It makes the question and answer session brief for us, please.
Well, with my observation, when I stepped out now.
Well, sorry, please, the line is still active, 03022116991. Make sure that you call us, and any question that you have, we can answer. Let me go on to WhatsApp, and we have a couple of your messages there. And this one says that I'm in Tema. When I go to where I work at the General Hospital, when I go to work, sometimes I'm returned. When I use my car, I'm allowed, even though I have an ID on me. And we'll keep that question. There's another caller on the line. Please, where are you calling from? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm calling from Kumasi. I just need to be precise.
What's your name, please?
My name is Adnan.
Adnan, you're calling from Edjuso?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Kumasi.
Okay. You have any question for the police? We also do have your Deputy Regional Commander also on the line, so we're all listening.
Oh, okay. Specifically, my question is not directed to the police. It's the military. Because the way they are mishandling, especially the youth, is not fair. Me, myself, I've witnessed not twice, more than 3 times. Because who MC Assembly has come out on the FM, I'm sure it's one of the most major radio stations, to
please, what have you witnessed and what's your question? I think it makes it easier for us. Don't do narrations.
For me, I was just standing on the roadside, visit my wife at the hospital. And I just saw the military vehicle. The moment they just saw us, they started throwing dirt on us. This is not fair. I thought the first thing they should have done to question us, because it's right for me to visit my wife at the hospital. But they just saw us, and they started throwing dirt on us, which is not fair. At least they should have questioned us first. Me, myself, I was already admitted in the hospital. I came to the house to speak some things to my wife, because both of us were admitted in the same hospital. But they started throwing dirt on us, which is not fair. At least they should have questioned us first.
All right, thank you. And ACP Ajama, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here, my brother.
Okay, so can you answer or give a response to him? For example, I've also witnessed it where people are just walking along and they are confronted and sometimes the whip or the cane sometimes are thrown around. Why is that done?
I think you asked the CIA, and the CIA responded to that. And throughout our briefings, we've impressed on the officers not to do that. But of course, the few recalcitrant ones will do that. But what we are doing is that if anybody suffers anything like that, we should make a report and we'll deal with these up. Again, you were asking why people are walking alone and we accost them.
Exactly.
Yes, but the thing is that we said there's a restriction. People must not come to town unless for specific reasons. And so we want to ask people whether they are just, what are they doing in town? People must not just come to town for the sake of coming to town. Otherwise, you will defeat the purpose of this restriction, my brother.
Okay. Now, there's a question. And okay, I have a caller. A caller is on the line.
Hello?
Please, your name and where you're calling from. And your question,
please. My name is calling from Chado.
You're calling from where?
Chado.
Chado.
Yeah.
Okay, please, your question.
Actually, it's not a question, but I want to thank the government for bringing these measures, which is very important.
Okay. The question from Tema, the person is a nurse, works at the hospital, has an ID. When she is using the private vehicle, she's allowed, but the commercial vehicle was returned. So.
Oh, one thing is, it is not a crime to join public transport. The police, we are very much aware of this, and that perhaps it is a question of the way and manner they answer questions. Where you going, where are you from, what kind of business, do you have ID card, and that. But police, seeing a nurse, would definitely, grant that offer.
Are you saying the nurse should be dressed in a uniform? That's better?
In uniform, better. If not in uniform, you should be able to produce ID card. Should be able. But one thing I will say is that regarding the case that you spoke about, police, we have long baton and truncheon, which are our official working tool. And when you have the truncheon and the baton is accepted. But we want them not to use canes. But let me also make it important that somebody said the youth are being molested. It's not a question of being molested. We have an exercise, a target goal in mind to make sure that the people of this country, health and security, to be maintained. And where you have somebody who takes the law into their own hand, walks anyhow, loiter anyhow, attract or get infected, go back to the community, the consequences are too much for us to bear. Insofar as you have a human right, you must also try as much as possible to protect the larger community. They also have a human right. And the police will not do anything to undermine, the human rights of individuals and group of persons. But we'll make sure that we prosecute the agenda of COVID-19 safety measures. So let them know that you cannot just go out there, and you must maintain social distancing. For example, you go to some places along the market roads around CMB and other areas, distancing is not part of their language, and the police will make sure that you comply with those.
Well, we already have another caller on the line. Please, your question, your name, where you're calling from, and your question. No summaries. Hello?
Hello?
Please, what's your name? Where are you calling from? And give us a question.
My name is Kelvin Davy. I'm calling from Tema.
Question.
Yeah. Please, I noticed that the policemen on your video doing some checking, sometimes they take an ID without being an Anglo. I don't know why. And I don't see them sanitizing their hands.
Yes.
Yes, we can. You answer that.
In that regard, I think we received a number of PPEs that were supplied to them. I am yet to also find out why they are doing this actually without gloves, because most officers have been issued with such gloves to work with them, so that they themselves do not expose themselves to the danger that as we are all fighting.
All right. Do we have a last caller on the line? Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Please, your name, where you're calling from, and your question. No narrations.
Me from OEB.
Please lower the volume on your set and give us your question.
Yeah, my name is Nee calling from OEB.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Can you move house during this period? What I mean is that can we move from one accommodation to another?
Please.
From one part of town to the other part.
So let's say from OEB to where?
Anywhere within the lockdown area.
Okay, so you want to move from one OEB household to the next?
That question.
Is that what you're saying? You want to move from house 1 to house 2 to go and do what?
I think he's getting everything wrong. We want to know why you are going. I think the restrictions and directives are very clear. If you have to go out, for now, everybody is indoors, or everybody is expected to be indoors. And that if you are going out, you are either going out for food, water, banking transactions, drugs, pharmaceutical, products, or hospital. So if you don't fall within any of these categories, then of course the police would definitely question you and return you if we have to.
Okay. ACP, are you on the line?
Yes.
There are concerns, and I'm reading this from WhatsApp, that when you have ghetto areas, you tend to be very strict. And when you go to East Legon and some of those places, the restriction is a bit lesser.
My brother, I think that the answer is obvious. The East Legon areas you're talking about, you won't find people, as it were, breaking the protocol. However, if you go to where they are ghettos, you find a lot of the young men grouped together in a small place who are not respecting the social distancing policy. And so we would want to break them up in order that each one of them would go home. And so, I mean, it is not that we are being high-handed on certain members of the public as against others, but it is part of the strategies that we are enforcing to ensure that the lockdown is strictly followed.
Okay. Now, thank you for joining us, ACP, and that's where we leave you all, and we'll deal with the two of you as we wrap up on this. I noticed yesterday when I was making entry into just cantonment, it was easy. I was making entry into Ashaman, I had to wait for minutes. I'm the same person.
Each community has its own history and what happens in them. And one thing I will say is that we are not discriminative, but in line with our operation order, we know where challenges are. We know where we have lesser challenges. And for instance, the Sherman that you spoke of, the population is very huge, and the police have to make sure that they put stringent measures on the ground to make sure that people comply with. For instance, it's legal, not that people don't violate some of the regulations. We see people driving around and we stop them, check them, and we ask them to go back and so forth. There are also a lot of infractions in those communities. But one thing is, as I said, the police have that discretionary power. And every situation demands a strategy within the larger frame. So all that we are doing at Ashama, Nima, Sukura, and all those things are in line with the prevailing situation, right? So it is not, we are not abusing the right, but we are appealing to them that, look, make sure that you take good care of yourself, stay at home, don't go out there. And you know, even some have even deceived the police who are going to the former station. And don't forget, we have the CID and we have intelligence-led systems, you know, to track. and you follow the person and you see that person will not go to pharmacy shop, but rather you find him at a beer bar, there we have to smoke you out and ask you to go. Either we arrest you or we send you to the police station for questioning. But one thing is that let us play it safe, because when you take it on a much lighter note, there is the likelihood that you might infect others, even your loved ones, in your own house or community. Therefore, let's be serious about it. The police will prosecute this agenda and will not abuse human rights of individuals. Will make sure that rather we look up to the law and the regulations guiding this exercise. The operational teams are out there, and we are doing everything possible with our sister security agencies, the military, to make sure that we protect the good people of this country. And those who have decided to take the laws into their own hands, to challenge authority and so forth, will not be allowed.
Okay, I have this one from Jay from Techiman, and he says that I think the security personnel should allow offenders to sweep areas instead of beating them. And I've seen videos of people squatting, doing press-ups and things like that.
Yes, as we have said, I think the explanation is still the same, because there are penalties for people who flout these rules, and these ones are well, expressed in the Impositions of Restriction Act, and that if anybody offends or breaches or violates any parts of the entire exercise, of course, I would always go for a better option of arrest and make the person face, the due rigors of the law. But with the issue of this East Legon that falls under ASIO, I would want to say that even right from the beginning of this exercise, they have even actually impounded about 30 vehicles in that area, most of which were private vehicles for flouting the directives. So if you want to say that some people are giving some privileges, it is neither here nor there. We are very serious on the ground, and whatever task that we have been given, we are ensuring that we are rolling them up to the core. And so we are not leaving anybody, neither are we leaving any stone unturned. So it is not as they are saying that, some people are giving some preferential treatments, we are being hard-handedness on strategy that best works for me. I believe that is what I will go for.
Akaswa, we witnessed this morning, one of our mates just witnessed 2 people who offended or were deemed to have offended or breached the rules or guidelines. They were made to desilt gutters. Omu, you got him.
One thing is, we've witnessed instances where people drop, a whole lot of things.
Garbage
and so forth. And when you drop it and the police sees it, you have to take it back to where you're coming from. And perhaps it may be within that angle, and also let me also make it that the use of force that, sometimes the security service, some, engage in assault without battery, they will look at you with impunity and tell you other things. The policeman will make sure that you comply with, you go back. We're not going to assault people, but let us not use pockets of some of these instances to undermine, the general operations of what we're doing. The operation have been good, it has been well directed by commanders, and we are doing great day 3.
Okay, let me ask you, on a scale of 0 to 10, how will you rate the operations so far?
For day 3?
Yeah, yes.
It may be 8 over 10.
Can you scale it for me?
Yes, we were addressing the issue of the nurse who had probably to come down because probably he was using a public transport. I would say that, of course, because of the fact that we are not in ordinary times, we'll continue to appeal with management, if these times, if they can try and find some transport for them to cushion them, I think that will help, because we addressed these things with the Tesano, road. Of course, we said that if you are going essential worker, and of course you have every identification that the police can resonate with, of course, we may not be able to let the transport or the commercial vehicle go, but we may bring you down and probably find a better alternative for you. So if I am going to delay, for some of these reasons on the road, then we would always appeal that management of essential workers should definitely consider some of these things and also support their staff to be able to deliver.
Well, thank you very much. And that is DSP Ifiatenge, the regional PRO for Accra Region, Ghana Police Service. And I've had also in the studio ACP Kwesi Fori, Director of Operations, Accra Region, Ghana Police Service. Thank you. And also on the line from Kumasi has been a Deputy Police Commander for the Ashanti Region, ACP David Ajem, helping us with the discussions and also taking your questions. But I tell you, there's a military man who had been getting some commendations on social media. And we posed a question on Facebook before we close the show. We'll let you know what your responses have been so far. We have more questions and answers when it comes to health. And we have our AM doctor, Dr. Joseph Akama, right here, streaming into the studio. He is a cardiologist. We're talking your health, what you need to do, any question related to health. Please make sure you ask the questions next.